Well, hello, everybody. I am so excited to be here to introduce a very special member of mine. And shout out to NIA Twin Cities, who's on this call today, supporting Dave Priddy. So everybody say hi. Hi, girls and guys. How you doing? So I'd like to introduce you to Dave, and he's with Epic Sales Management, and they specialize in helping small business owners and sales leaders who are stuck with inconsistent sales results and frustrated by failed sales hires. I'm sure everyone knows someone that has hired the wrong salesperson. What makes them different is they don't just give theory, they actually build a reputable sales system that works. And most of their clients see 25% growth in just 180 days. He's going to share a part of the systems that they work with. So thank you for being here to support Dave. Dave, it's up to you. Take it from here.
Well, first I'll share the my screen, and so as Kim said, I am Dave Priddy with Epic Sales Management Solutions. If you've ever felt stuck trying to grow your business through cold outreach or random networking, this session will change how you think about sales growth. Today, we're going to walk through a repeatable system called revenue from relationships. Basically turning everyday connections into a consistent source of new clients. Next 45 minutes, you'll learn how to turn relationships into revenue with clarity and integrity. So if you see the picture up there, I went to the Naval Academy, so I'm Navy Dave, and my partner, David Wench from down in Dallas, went to West Point, so he's Army David. So there's only one day a year that we really significantly dislike each other, and that's on the Army Navy Day. So moving forward. Thinking about, if you're tired of cold outreach that leads nowhere, in this class, you'll learn how to grow your pipeline without pitching harder. You'll stop sending more emails into the void and start using a system that works, one built on intentional networking, high trust referrals, and meaningful sales conversations. By the end, you'll have some practical tools you can apply tomorrow to win more deals with less effort. Now, if you have questions in the meantime, I am going to have a section at the end of the session for question Q&A. But if you have something in the middle where you have a question, please just raise your hand and or put it into chat, and I'll try and address it as we go. So again, it's designed for coaches, consultants, B2B service providers who are ready to scale their sales. If you're tired of cold outreach that goes nowhere, if your network isn't producing the consistent referrals that you really are looking for, or if you want to try and be more predictable about your growth, this session will help you. So starting out, traditional selling just isn't working like it used to. 98% of cold calls go unanswered. I'm sure that many of you have experienced that as much as I have. Most referrals happen by accident instead of design, and too often the sales messaging is generic, unclear, and really it's easily ignored. There is a better way, a more authentic, repeatable way to grow your business through intentional relationships that naturally create referrals. Here's the big picture. Revenue from relationships gives you 6 proven steps to create predictable sales growth. First is messaging clarity, then targeting precision, relationship building, rhythm and collaboration, discovery conversations, and finally measurement and improvement. These steps work together to help you build trust, attract opportunities, and convert them into revenue consistently. So I'll go through each step individually. Step 1 is all about clarity before connection. You can't attract the right clients or referrals if your message isn't clear. We align these 3 key frameworks. We have your problem we solve story, company sales story, and your story brand script to make your outreach, website, and profile resonate with the right people. So start with the problem you solve. Problem you solve that people will, basically we always ask our clients on our first visit, what is it that you do? What is your superpower that people are willing to pay money for? Prospects don't care what you do until they know you understand the challenge, the things that they need to have fixed or to improve. Lead with empathy and relevance, and then frame your story around the client's pain points and what's at stake if they don't take action. When you show that you get it, your message is going to instantly earn some attention. And this is an internal document that factually presents the problem you solve And it's really, it's to make it clear for yourself and anybody within your company that you're working with. Next step is preparing for how to say it externally. Some of you may be familiar with Mike Weinberg and his company Sales Story. It's a concise, client-focused narrative that clearly communicates what problems you solve, how you create value, and why you're different. It's not about your customers' history or features. It's about helping your ideal client quickly see that you understand their world and have helped others just like them. This story becomes your go-to message when prospecting, opening calls, networking, or answering. So what do? It's more of the one-on-one, the individual, or in a very, very small group that you want to utilize this, the company sales story. Finally, you want to make your client the hero. Many of you may have heard of Donald Miller's story brand framework. It helps you communicate in the way that feels personal and clear. It positions you as the guide, not the hero. Your client, your prospect is the hero, and that you want to make them with that, hold them up for that, with a plan that helps them succeed. When the messaging is consistent across your website, LinkedIn, and email, it's going to help you build trust faster and makes every outreach more effective. So at this point, that's sort of the first section, getting your message clear, and then we're going to talk about aiming at the right audience. Does anyone have any questions at this point, or that you want to wait if you can hold them till later? Okay, so now we've got your messaging clear. It's time to aim at the right audience. Thank you, Kelsey. Appreciate it. Messaging defines what to say. Targeting defines who to say it to. So moving into step 2 and learning how to identify your ideal client profiles and strategic centers of influence, the people who can open the right doors for you. So again, it's all about focus. Intentional networking starts with knowing exactly who you're trying to reach and, more importantly, who can introduce you. When you define your ideal client profiles and your strategic centers of influence, every conversation becomes more purposeful and more direct. So the ideal client profile brings clarity to your outreach. It describes who you can help the most, not everyone that you could possibly help. One of the things I talk to a lot of people about, and I've said this in a number of with Kim and other NIA networking, is you want that ideal client profile to be laser focused so that you can really identify where you want to be talking. And it also helps other people identify who to introduce you to. You want to define attributes like the industry, the company size, the geography, and the role that the people that you want to be introduced to. The clearer your ICP, the easier it is for others to refer those right opportunities. SCIs, this is strategic centers of influence, are the professionals who already know and serve your ideal clients. The analogy is you're all swimming in the same pool of clients, but you're in different lanes. They're going to be your trusted partners, the people who multiply your reach, and you multiply theirs. When you intentionally develop these relationships, your network becomes an engine for consistent growth. To go deeper to creating those SCI role profiles, you list the partner types most aligned with your market. Consultants, vendors, or advisors who serve the same audience. Document the characteristics and how your clients overlap. This turns networking from random to intentional. Every connection now serves a purpose. The ideal is identifying probably 6 to 10 SCI roles, and then you want to have no more than 2 or 3 of each type, because again, it's a mutual relationship where you're referring to them and they're referring to you. Now, step 3 is where the real growth begins. Audit your existing network and identify who already trusts you. Then you expand your reach by strategically selecting events and communities where your clients and SCIs are active. Focus on adding value. It's listening and being part of the community, not just attending. Look at what you can give before you start asking what you can get from others. Here's the process. Audit your current network. Look at who do you already know. Engage and really start looking tactically as far as who are the people that are focused on the same ideal client profiles that you are. Engage in the right communities. NIA is a perfect example, but what other networking events and groups that can you get into? Build visibility and relationships. We've got a term that we call link networking. It's not just for prospecting, it's also used to identify and upgrade strong first connections into strategic centers of influence. And you want to repeat this monthly to sustain growth. The cycle creates a steady rhythm of opportunity, an intentional growth loop connecting offline and online engagement. Step 4 is the consistencies. Relationships will grow through rhythm and shared purpose. Using the CAPS framework to guide your first connection meetings. And I'll share a little bit with that in a minute. Share a sales navigator list of connections that match your ideal client profiles. You obviously want to share them with your strategic centers of influence, and then you're also centers of influence and targeted first connections. That's when you're in the process of the link networking. Make sure you're tracking your engagements using a monthly engagement calendar. We've got some resources that are available there as well. This consistent rhythm transforms networking into a measurable, reliable referral system. So the CAPS, when you ask for referrals, clarity builds confidence, both for you and for the person that you're introducing them to. The CAPS framework comes in, it's really what it is. It's a simple way of gathering some information. The C is for characteristics of the ideal referral, both yours and theirs. A is alternatives they've considered. What are, what they may have mentioned that they've already tried that didn't work. P is for the pains. What are the struggles? What's getting in the way? What problems that they're facing right now? And S is for the symptoms, the early warning signs that someone needs your help. When you use CAPS, you can move from a vague ask, hey, you know anyone that who needs what I do, to a confident, specific one. You know your ideal client profile, they know theirs. You know what it is that you're offering that can help people. So, one example, I'd love to meet business owners who are frustrated that their sales meetings aren't converting. CAPS turns casual chats into confident, specific asks that actually lead to introductions. And before you start asking things like that, you ask them the questions to bring that out from them so that you can identify how you can help them. Once your networking rhythm is consistent, it's the time to, the next step is turning those trusted relationships into results. So any questions about what we've talked about so far when it comes to CAPS or SCIs, ideal client profiles? Don't everyone speak up at once. Okay, Kelsey said, for you, finding my balance between networking and work, that's a great point. Yeah, can you expand a little bit on that? Can you unmute? Can she unmute?
I was just about to ask, am I allowed to unmute? For me, I just joined NIA the very beginning of this month, and I'm finding there's a ton of events. Our group has a few, and then the network has a few, and I'm trying to find kind of my boundaries and balance between almost like overdoing it and not doing enough. Like, do you have any tips on like what you find is a realistic amount of times to be reaching out and engaging or anything like that? Because I know I'm in a few other groups and I'm like, oh my goodness, my calendar is like 2 times a week now, and it adds up. So just seeing if you have any recommendations.
Well, I think one of the things that can help you there, first of all, identify your ideal client profile. I mean, that's the biggest thing. What is it? And by doing the step before that, talking about what is it that you do that that people are willing to pay money for. So what is the problem that you solve? Who has that problem? That's part of clarifying who the ideal client profile is, so that when you're meeting with people, you can be clear about that. And once you've done that, you can ask them the same thing. But like with NIA, one of the reasons why you get credit for one-on-ones is so that you can better understand how to introduce them and how they can introduce you. You want to set some specific boundaries on that, and that can be in person or virtually. So when you're doing that, plan out what you want to accomplish when it comes to that. That's what I would suggest. When it comes to as far as your timing for networking, I've ebbed and flowed. I mean, NIA is probably where I spend a good percentage of my time. I've got 2 or 3 other networking groups that are more general. But they're usually once a month. I usually try and focus on monthly meetings rather than weekly meetings. With the monthly meetings, it's as I people suggest other groups that I can I go into network again and send you. You said you have 2 or 3 others. Making sure that you don't spend all of your time in networking groups, because then you're not going to have the time to do the follow-ups. Another thing that to help set your timing as far as looking for the work and doing the work, set specific times. Spend you've got 2 or 3 hours where you're going to do in your networking. I usually try, I've got specific clients set up at specific times, but I have certain times that I set aside for my prospecting, for doing my, the link networking, and making sure that you keep to those times and protect that time, so that when you're going to do that, when you're going to be out looking, doing the prospecting, looking specifically, setting that time so you don't get interrupted. Put your phone on airplane, airplane mode, so that you will not get interrupted. Now, if you're using your phone, obviously you want to do that, but I mean, it's setting time aside that that you're out of office or that you're not available. Does that help?
It does, actually. Thank you. It's a good point when you're talking about the one-on-ones versus the monthlies. And if you do too many monthlies, you're not going to be able to follow up, and finding that balance. But being also targeted with who your audience would be and who you're wanting to work with, because then that helps you be strategic in the groups that you participate more in. So, no, that was great. Thank you.
Great. And what I usually do is, when I'm going into a networking group, I'm looking for 3 connections. That's it. Once I get them, I'm done. I mean, it's because it's if you try and get 5, 6, 8, 10, I used to go in and I'd collect 10, 15, 20 cards, and I thought, wow, that was a great networking event. I couldn't follow up with them. I couldn't remember them. I usually try to take notes on the back of their business cards, but think about what your goals are for when you're going into it, whether it's a networking event, whether it's some sort, whatever the event is. Set some goals for yourself and stick to those goals. If you get into a great conversation, hey, wait, but again, remember that the purpose of a networking event is not to have a detailed sales conversation. It's to schedule something out one-on-one. You talked about the one-on-one. So that's as far as the presentation, it will be available afterwards. I can make it available to people, but I mean, the other thing is that it will be recorded, so it will be available in in your back offices. I see your comment about the 4 points. I haven't gone through all 6 points yet. I see. Do you have tips or tricks on coaching or training other networking partners? Again, to keep I will get to that a little bit later in the presentation, but really the key there is planning for what you want to do. Have a method to your madness, so that you know what your intention is, and that you can then share with someone. Kim, do you have a question or comment?
I think it's a struggle to balance in business in general, no matter what you do. So I would just say a lot of it isn't how much you're doing. It is the intention behind it and the productivity because you can meet with people all day long and have nothing come from it. So really, sometimes you have to kiss a few frogs in the beginning, and you have to go out there and talk to a lot of people to identify who those people are. But once you do, really, it's important to nurture those and be consistent with those. And it's really the quality. It really is. So, but at first, sometimes you don't know what that is. So
great point. Quality over quantity every time. Now, the thing is, if you're getting used to it, if you're developing that process, try different things, but make sure you evaluate. If you come out from a networking event and you're sort of like, hey, there was some good and there were some not so good, well, do the analysis on it. Go back and look and say, okay, what was good? Why was it good? What was not so good? Why was it not so good? And how can you change? Make the changes, apply that to the next event, and see if that makes a difference on it. So I mean, we're constantly with our clients, we're constantly doing at least quarterly, and sometimes, early on, monthly reviews as far as what the progress is. So yeah. Do any background research on the person? Oh, absolutely. The first place to search, obviously, is their LinkedIn profile, their LinkedIn business profile, and their website. But then, I mean, the other thing is as you're getting introductions, people can, that's why we talk about strategic centers of influence. If Kim is introducing me to someone, she knows me and she knows them. So that's the idea, is that when you make those introductions, make sure you give enough information so that it helps them. And I would say do that first. So you're setting that example for other people, and then you can help them learn that. Because I've sent them how to introduce me to people, and they say, "Wow, this is great." Says, "Well, I help them develop that as well." Does that help, Brian? Okay, so why don't we dive back in here? Again, we're talking about, we've got the networking rhythm, fairly consistent, using CAFs, collaboration. Now it's about guiding the conversation that closes business. So step 5 is discovery. It's not about pitching. It's about understanding when someone refers you. You've already earned the trust. Your job is to guide the conversation. You ask about their current situation, their desired state, the obstacles in the way, and the motivation behind their goals. Then we've developed something called SVIC: summarize, verify, what's the importance, and the commitment to confirm priorities and next steps. And I'll dig into those a little bit as well. So this is where trusted introductions become qualified opportunities. Again, discovery and qualification is the most important part of the sales process. Very often when I have clients or prospects that are saying, hey, they're having trouble on the closing, it's almost always something to the left in the process. And to the left, I mean, it always comes back to that discovery and qualification, getting the information. So the discovery flow is, what's the current situation? What's happening right now? Where do they want to be? Where do they want to be in the future? Next question would be, what are the obstacles? What are the things that are in the way for you to achieve that? And a really important question that a lot of people don't ask is why? What's the motivation for getting there? So once you've clarified that, and again, that doesn't, my partner was a Sandler trainer a number of years ago, and we like to use the Sandler sales funnel, asking questions and digging deeper. Now, that doesn't mean you dig deep on every single aspect. It's there's certain areas where if you've done your homework, you have a good idea of what problem they have that you think that you can solve. But so that's what you're digging into. But you're going to dig a little bit deeper to really make sure that they understand what the problem is. There was a book that came out in the late 90s called The Challenger Sale. I've heard mixed reviews on what people think of the book, but one of the things I really liked about it is identify what the problem is for your client or for your prospect, and don't tell them. The idea is helping them self-discover it, that they understand it, so that once they understand the problem, it's going to be much easier for you to say, okay, hey, I may or may not be able to help you. When I'm asking prospects questions, I had a detailed analysis, a meeting with someone on Monday, and my expectation, I'm going to probably be referring him to someone else, because I'm just not, they could use my help, but they don't need it right now. They're probably going to need it sometimes in 2026. So once you have established that discovery and qualification and gotten to that point, it's SVIC. It's just summarize, hey, do I have this? And then verify, gauge the importance, and then get the commitment. So remember, what your metrics are going to reveal where to focus. Which SCIs can you help the most and can help you? Which conversations, which actions drive the most growth? That's how you connect relationships to revenue. So when it comes to the SVIC, and I'll just give you a brief example of it, would be you've gotten all the information. It's like, okay, so Kim, so what we've talked about, my understanding is you've got this and this problem, and you want to get to here. The verify is a very simple, do I have that right? If they hesitate, if they don't say a yes, absolutely, I'm saying, okay, did I miss something? So that gives you the chance to get on the same page. You've described it in their own words, what they say the problem is, and that they agree that that's the problem. At that point, the importance is, okay, so let's take me out of the picture. Let's take Dave, let's take Epic Sales Management Solutions. On a scale from 1 to 10, how important is that this gets taken care of right now, today, this week? If it's 6 or less, I I go negative. I say, so it really doesn't sound like this is that important. I mean, is this something that you need to get done sometime in the distant future? Or is it something that may not even be that important? So verifying that. But if it's 7 to 9, one of the questions that has done the most to help me identify my business and the opportunities is, if they're 7 to 9, the question to ask is, okay, so what has to happen for that to be a 10? Because a lot of times they may not know it, or the phrase that you realize, prospects sometimes lie. They sometimes don't tell you everything. So this gives you the opportunity to uncover that, so that they may or may not know it, but they think it. Okay. So it might be say, well, the fire in the warehouse. Once I put that out, this becomes the top priority. If there's something else that's holding them back, for not to say, because if it's not right now, it's like, look, if this is not the top priority right now, let's put it on the shelf. Should I call you? Would you like me to call you back next week, next month, beginning of next quarter? So identify. It gives you the opportunity to say, hey, if it's not the right time, then then let's not talk about this. But if it is, if they give you the points there, one of the other key elements here is a lot of people that say 9, and then they'll say, well, I never give a 10, and I kind of lean in a little bit, and again, so it's a 10. So at that point, then you want to talk about, okay, so it sounds like it's important that it gets taken care of right now. Now, okay, I know we're not at that point, but let's just pretend we're moving forward. What is that going to look like? So that gives you the opportunity to start setting that up. So those are some of the things that this process, I've used a lot of different processes. I was in the pharmaceutical industry for 25 years. I was with Johnson & Johnson and Merck and had a lot of good training process. This has helped clarify the method that I'm using, and it's taken the best of the things that I've seen over the last 35 years and put it into one place and simplified the whole process. So step 6 is the accountability piece. What gets measured improves. I always used to be told by people who were my mentors. It's like, people respect what you inspect. That's also internally. So you want to track your introductions given and received with your SCIs. You want to, your first connection meetings, your referrals introduced. Combine these with the SCI and referral tracking to see what's working. Monthly review is going to turn your activity into insights. It's going to help you strengthen what works and make adjustments on what doesn't work. If you've had a great call, I always used to, you learn more from the bad calls than the good calls, but you can learn from all of them. And if you've got a good call, you say, okay, why was it successful? Was it successful because of what I did or in spite of what I did? And really do that analysis. Be your own best self coach. So here's the roadmap. First, getting your messaging frameworks right. Define your ideal client profile and SCI profiles. Build and work your top 10 to 20 SCIs. Master your contact rhythm with caps and collaboration. Lead discovery conversations that convert, and then track those metrics that drive improvement. Follow this sequence consistently, and you're going to turn relationships into a predictable source of new clients. So, appreciate everybody's attention. I'd love to hear questions. Think about it from this perspective. What's blocking your growth right now? You can put it in chat, or you can come off mute. Everybody nailing it? Mm-hmm. Okay, identifying the ideal client profile. Okay, so Joe, can you come off mute? And so what have you done to look for your ideal client profile?
I struggle from the aspect of wanting to try to serve too many people to narrow it down. So
okay,
that's more of what is narrowing over the last couple of months into tradesmen specifically and trade industries. So
okay,
working through that and developing from there. Most of which struggle with cash flow, conversions, supply chain shortage, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So, I mean, and again, it sounds like you've already done this, but I mean, I would make a laundry list. I try to keep it to no more than 10 to 15, but you may have 20, 25, and then immediately rank them. There may be some that it'll be real easy you cross off first, but the ones that bubble to the top. I mean, if you've got an existing clientele, or if you've got a mentor who you know is helping guide you, who do they think would be good? I mean, to be honest, a fractional CFO is one of my targets for SCIs. But let me tell you why. So this is some of the thought process you can start thinking about is, you know, think about that problem you solve. You know, you may be able to solve 10. I mean, my partner and I, there's a lot of things that we can solve, but we focus on the sale, on the process itself. So the reason why a fractional CFO is so good for me is you go into your new client, and they're usually big enough that they can afford to hire a fractional CFO. They're not so big that they have a full-time CFO. Now you're going to probably go in and you're going to look at their marketing. You're going to look at their production. You're going to look at their, you know, all the different elements. And when you get to sales, you're going to say, now, in most cases, their sales is at least having some success. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to afford to bring you in. But there's almost always something that can be improved. Now, most fractional CFOs are on, you know, when it comes to on the money side. So and you usually don't like sales. Sell is a 4-letter word to most people who are so when you find someone who needs some help with the sales side, you're looking for a trusted partner. I'll raise my hand for that. So, but again, but you have to understand what I do, who I'm looking for. So it's not only your ideal client profile, but when it comes to you may be able to help an SCI develop their ideal client profile too. That's what this process is all about. Was that helpful?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely on point with working through how to rank and eliminate. It's a great way to go about that. Again, struggling from what I do, I can help almost anybody to narrow that down to focus.
Right. Well, and again, that focus, that doesn't mean you can't still have other clients, but the more laser focused, I mean, I'm talking about, it's not a search light. It is a laser beam that cuts through steel, because when you're that clear with other people, it's very easy for them to say, wow, I've got, you know, I know somebody who's like 90% there. They could still introduce you, but it's a lot easier for people to think of people that they can introduce you to. That's what you want to do. That's one of the things that I think why Kim I love working with her with NIA is it's getting the focus. The purpose of NIA is not to do business with each other. It's how you introduce someone else and how you get those referrals. That's why referrals are always the top of the leaderboards. Kim, did you have something?
We had a one-to-one coaching this morning. I'm going to share us something because 7 people are on this call. And the one thing they said that was the most helpful in the call was the clear ask. And that actually not just having your ask be, and I used this example this morning, if you need to know property managers, maybe you should ask who you know in your network that calls on property managers. That's an example, because people do not think beyond your ask. They're just going to go, oh, I don't know any property managers. Boom. They just naturally won't. So the moral of this is you need to make it very easy for people to understand how to help you. And Dave is right. The more clear, here's your target, right? And you could probably help anybody on this target, but here's your bullseye. That doesn't mean they'll want to introduce you to this, but the more clear you are, truly, the more people are going to be very clear. And here's the thing. People don't want to work with people and do everything. They want to work with people that are master of their trade, not the jack of all trades. Matt is so great at identifying and saying, you know what, I could help you with this, but really this is the right person for you. Yep. So I just thought I would add that ask and then digging and being clear and then digging a little more. And not just asking this, but asking who calls on this. Who's the person that's taking your client to the Twins game or the football game or bringing them a holiday basket, right? Who's the person that's meeting with them quarterly to do their taxes that have influence? And usually people that are coaches or dealing with money or dealing with administrative tasks have high influence.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who are familiar with Sales Navigator and LinkedIn, that's a great resource to find. You plug in your ideal client profile, and then you look at all of and you put in first and second level connections. You're looking for second level connections, and then who are the first level connections there? Because those second level connections, the people that are connected with them are very likely they're their ideal client profile, just like they're yours. So that's one method to do that. So I've got Tiffany, or no, Brian, you talked about too many networking groups and too many superficial related meetings, a mile wide and inch deep. I been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. I totally understand. What I would suggest is I like writing stuff down. So I did this a couple of years ago. I wrote down all the networking groups and meetings that I went to. I was doing 2 or 3 meetings a day. You're not going to get anything done. So start focusing on where the priorities would be. What are the ones that you get the most out of? Get the most out of as in referrals or identifying your ideal client profile or people who might be introduce you to things, but start cutting it down. As you do that, you're going to easily get a lot off the list. Now, there may be some that you take off the list that you rethink after a month or two. So, oh, wow, there was more coming from that. But again, constantly be reviewing that. I'm looking at a couple of groups right now. There's one group I'm considering dropping out of. But there's a couple of others that I may add in, but it's the ebb and flow. Always be looking at least annually, maybe even semi-annually. Okay, is it worth the time that I'm spending? And also a balance between virtual meetings and in-person meetings. I'm a big fan of in-person meetings, but COVID did an amazing thing about expanding our business. I hadn't really had that much outside of the 5-state area. I've got clients in Hawaii. I've got them up in Alaska, down in Texas, all over the place now because almost all of the work we do is virtual. So if you need to identify, are you a virtual, no restrictions on geography, or are you looking for a one state or a couple of state areas? Because I've got some clients who are just in one state. In Texas, yeah, well, originally New Jersey. What exit? No, sorry. Well, we won't go there. I grew up there also as well. But as far as the networking groups and the meetings, I would just say analyze to set your priorities for those. And don't be afraid to walk away from some of them. Tiffany is talking about not knowing what industry you want to focus on. The first thing is, do you know what problem you solve? And then think about who has that problem. For us, we're not necessarily industry specific. We're talking, 5 to 20 employees. The reason I do 5 to 20 employees is because no one really measures 0 to 2 salespeople. So I'm looking for someone who's looking to build their sales team and expand, and so it's really industry agnostic. If you can get specific to an industry, that can be helpful. But if nothing else, look for other ways to build that. The size of the company, what's their revenue, all the different aspects. Look at the way LinkedIn, categorizes people. It can tell you the numbers and all the different titles. So that may help you narrow down. Don't get too focused on, I got to get to this industry. Depending on what you do, it may be a little bit more of general as far as industries, but you can get specific in other areas. What else was there? So, other questions?
I have a comment. I think it's really important. I understand, okay. Tiffany, like I'm a Network in Action franchise owner. So my center of influence is way more broader than Dave Priddy's. So if yours is broad, and for some of us, like if you sell promotional items, it's probably broad, then you need to focus in on, hey, listen, I'm not limited to working with service trades companies, but 30% of my clientele is in the trades. Now, why is that important? because whenever I hear an industry, I was a recruiter by nature, that helps me connect for you. People do like to work with people that are familiar with their industry. So they just do, whether it's important or not, they know you understand their industry, at least in their eyes. When I was hiring an admin, I wanted somebody who was familiar with my CRM, right? So it makes it easier for people to talk about you. But I want to say this, and this is a true story. We had somebody that wasn't joining NIA. He was an auto glass guy, and we connected him with a bunch of people. He got a bunch of business. Long story short, we picked up the phone. Who is his center of influence? Insurance companies, right? We needed insurance people. We drafted an intro. We called him. We got 7 referrals. 5 wanted in, 3 joined, the other 2 are on wait list because we tapped into his network, right? That didn't mean that's only people I need to know. So sometimes use your common sense. If you're talking to somebody, you know where their center of influence is. And if it really makes sense, like I totally understand technology or service industries or restaurants or medical company, whatever, tap into who you're talking to. If it makes sense, you don't want to just say that to say it, tap into their network when you're having your ask.
Yeah, and as you're building that, ask people that you trust in your network. You know, people who you've worked with, people who, you know, one of the other things is looking, if you've just started a new gig, think back to your past experiences. I reach out to people who I knew in the pharmaceutical industry. I am not going to be working with a pharmaceutical company. No way. They're just too big, too huge. But I have a lot of people that I know and trust who have gone on to do other things or are still doing it. And they can give you some insights that may be very, very valuable that you wouldn't have thought of on your own because of whatever your perspective is. So don't be afraid to start building that trusted, you know, those trusted advisors. So let me ask another question. What if you just put in chat, what's the biggest takeaway from today's session? And most importantly, which of the 6 steps would you start with? Will you go to first, and I'll pull them up so you have something to refer to. You learn ICP. See a step 2. I see a pattern developing here. Top 5 SCIs. Quality, not quantity. On the first 4, need to focus on the. That's great, Kat. If you're that far along, and again, you can also go back and review those first 4, making sure. And that's the other thing is I constantly go back and look at all the different elements. Okay, terrific. So let me talk about how you can start growing your sales growth. Got a couple of options. One of the things, if you reach out to me, and my contact information will be at the back, I will build you a free custom referral success toolkit. It'll include, well, I'll show you in just a minute. The other option is book a one-to-one discovery call with me, or we're going to be coming up with our revenue from relationships program starting in the spring of 2026. This is what the toolkit will look like. I'll build you a problem we solve story, your ideal client profile that I need just to get some fact. I'll build that, send that to you. I just need some factual confirmation, and I'll build your company sales story and a story brand script, and start building the SCI role profiles, and then provide CAPS questions and an intro kit. Basically, it's how people can introduce you via email, via text, via LinkedIn, in person, you know, and then also develop some discovery and qualification questions for you. So there's my email, dave@dksalesconsulting.com. That's rapidly becoming a subsidiary of Epic Sales Management Solutions since David and I have been partnering.
Networking doesn't have to be a waste of time if you have some intention and direction with it. It's really important because when you're too vague and you're not being intentional, it just could be a time suck. So just lots of things, really great information today, Dave.
Well, thank you. I mean, and just my partner likes to use the term eating our own dog food. I've been doing the really focusing on utilizing fine tuning my SCI systems and process. And in the last 36 hours, 48 hours now, maybe, I've had 5 very, very strong potential opportunities that I'm going to be following up with. So it's, you know, it works. That's one of the reasons why we are so focused on this. You know, 6 months ago, we were doing other processes, but this strategic center of influence and this entire process will do amazing things for you as long as you take the time and put it together. So, yeah. So, Ashley, if you just reach out to me. I will build this from your LinkedIn profile, your company LinkedIn profile, your website. So just provide that. And if you have any sales materials, go ahead and send them to me as well. The sales materials will basically just fine tune it a little bit more. But again, you're going to have a chance to look at it and give me some feedback on it. So when if you want to, when you reach out to me, send me your LinkedIn profile, or actually just reach out to me about connecting on LinkedIn, and your website, along with any sales materials. Other questions?
Yes, definitely do it. Take advantage of this. It was great to work with Dave, and he did this for me. And one of the things that really stood out was having somebody else's perspective look at what I was saying to customers. And when you see it, you read it, you see it in this layout, you're like, is this really what I'm going after? And the correct words and just the layout really defined. And so it really helped me, and it was amazing how well Dave can position this to put it into the ways that we can just get better at explaining what we do. So so really take it up. It's a really great program that he has, and I just can't thank him enough. It was great. So it's good, Dave.
Okay. Anything else? Should I throw this back to you?
I'll tell you what, I could take it from here. Dave, first of all, thank you so much for being here and presenting. I do want to encourage everyone to check back with us in 1 week. That's going to be October 22nd, Wednesday, same time, same place. Our presenter is going to be, for our speaker series, Miss Jessica Defoe, Marketing Strategies for Small Business. And she is the creative force behind JMD Creative Consulting. So do check in for that. That is pretty much going to be our last focus forum for the year as we're heading into the holiday season. So, oh, I see some comments already. She is amazing. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing from her. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. So do be with us. Also on the first Wednesday of the following months, do check with us for our network with the nations. We're going to pair you guys off into one-on-ones where you can get to know, like, and trust one another, and hopefully do some business in the future. So that's about it, guys. I wish everyone a happy holiday, and I'll be seeing you hopefully next week. All right, take care, and thanks again, Dave.
You bet. Enjoyed it.